In 1974, a boy in Sheffield came home from school to find 2 slices of white bread stuffed with cold chips and vinegar waiting on the kitchen table. His mother made the same sandwich 3 nights a week because payday was still days away. Across Britain, families survived on sandwiches most supermarkets don't even sell ingredients for anymore. Dripping on bread, sugar sandwiches, cold potatoes with salt. Number 8 fed mining families during the 3-day week. Number 3 filled factory lunch tins by the million. These were not sandwiches of misery. They were arithmetic. Survival passed from one kitchen generation to the next, until Britain forgot it. Dripping sandwich. Ingredients: beef dripping, white bread, salt. A scrape of beef dripping on white bread, finished with a pinch of salt. That was lunch. In the mining towns of Yorkshire and Durham in the 1970s, when a man's weekly wage had to feed 5 mouths and pay the rent, dripping sandwiches were how families bridged the gap between Wednesday and Friday. A loaf of white bread cost around 11 pence. The dripping was free, saved from Sunday's roasting tin, set in a cold larder, dark jelly at the bottom and pale fat on top. You spread both layers together. The salt hit first, sharp and bright. Then the deep, beefy richness rolled in underneath, warming a cold kitchen better than the stove ever did. Children across the north ate these before walking to school in the January dark, packed into lunch tins by the million. Nobody called it poor food. It was just sandwiches, good ones. They were not sandwiches of hardship. They were the arithmetic of a working family that knew how to make a Sunday joint feed them until Thursday. Chip butty. Ingredients: white bread, thick chips, butter. 2 slices of buttered white bread, a scoop of hot chips. That was tea. In Manchester, Bradford and Leeds in the 1970s, when factory wages were stretched thin and a family of 4 had to be fed on what was left after the rent and the gas bill, the chip butty kept children full for pennies. A portion of chips from the local chippy cost around 5 pence. 2 slices of bread, perhaps a penny. 40 pence fed 2 children with change to spare. The butter had to be real. Margarine wouldn't melt the same way. The bread had to be soft enough to compress around the hot chips, soaking up the fat, going translucent at the edges. Salt and vinegar on top. The smell hit you halfway down the street, wrapped in newspaper, eaten walking home in the dark. Across the north, children knew the route from chippy to front door by heart. Your nan didn't need a recipe. She needed a chippy that stayed open until 9 and a few coins in the jar by the door. Marmite and cold potato sandwich. Ingredients: Marmite, cold boiled potato, white bread. Cold boiled potato sliced thin on white bread with a scrape of Marmite. It sounds wrong. It wasn't. In households where the cupboard was nearly empty by Thursday and last night's potatoes were the only filling left, this sandwich kept children fed when the wage packet was still a day away. Marmite cost less than 30 pence a jar in 1973, and a jar lasted a month or more. A pound of potatoes was around 4 pence. The whole sandwich came in under a penny. The potato was cool and dense, the Marmite salty and yeasty, the bread soft enough to hold it all together without a fight. It tasted of real things, earth and salt, and the kind of savouriness that fills a belly properly. In terraced houses across the Midlands and the North, mothers made these without thinking, because nothing was wasted, ever. Cold potatoes from Wednesday's tea became Thursday's lunch. That was the rule. They were not poor sandwiches. They were the proof that a clever woman could feed her family on what most kitchens threw away. Corned beef and brown sauce sandwich. Ingredients: corned beef, brown sauce, white bread. Cold corned beef, sliced thick, laid flat on white bread with a smear of brown sauce. That was the working man's 11 o'clock. In the potteries in Sheffield, in the shipyards of the Tyne, factory workers ate corned beef sandwiches at the same hour every morning for 40 years. A tin of corned beef in 1975 cost around 22 pence and made 8 rounds of sandwiches, enough to feed a family of 4 with leftovers for the next day. HP or daddies, families chose a side and stayed loyal as if it were a matter of religion. The meat was dense, salty, packed so tight you could see the grain when you cut it. The brown sauce cut through the fat with vinegar sharpness. The bread softened against the meat and held everything together. Millions of British lunch tins carried this sandwich every weekday from 1945 onwards. The tin opener was as essential as the bread knife. It wasn't poor food, it was the sandwich that kept Britain working when the country had nothing else to spare. Bread and scrape. Ingredients: white bread, margarine, salt. A scrape of margarine across white bread, finished with salt. Not spread, scraped. the thinnest possible covering. In the Welsh mining valleys in the early 1970s, when the 3-day week shut the pits and miners' wives had to feed their children on whatever was left at the back of the larder, bread and scrape went into the school satchel without complaint. A loaf cost 11 pence, a block of margarine 18. One block lasted a fortnight if you scraped properly. The bread was soft and pale, the margarine barely visible, more a memory than a layer, but the salt brought it alive. And when you bit down, the bread compressed against your tongue and tasted somehow of being looked after. Children across South Wales carried these to school in greaseproof paper. Nobody compared lunches, nobody had room to. My mother used to say a proper scrape tasted better than no bread at all. She was right. Bread and scrape was not failure. It was a mother stretching the week until Friday with whatever skill she had left. EGG and salad cream sandwich. Ingredients: hard-boiled egg, salad cream, white bread. A hard-boiled egg, sliced thin, laid on white bread with a drizzle of salad cream. Sunday tea, Monday lunch, every working week in every town. In British households of the 1970s, where eggs were one of the few proteins a family could afford in bulk, your grandmother boiled a dozen on Sunday evening and they sat in the fridge all week, ready for whatever the days demanded. An egg cost about 3 pence. A bottle of Heinz salad cream, 15 pence and lasting a month. Total cost per sandwich, under 5 pence. The egg was firm and pale yellow, the salad cream sharp and vinegary, thinner than mayonnaise and brighter on the tongue. The white bread softened against the warm egg and held everything in place. Packed into lunch tins from Glasgow to Plymouth. Eaten by children at picnic tables, standard weekday tea in millions of homes. It wasn't a fancy sandwich, it was the one a tired mother could make in 2 minutes after a long shift, and that's why it mattered. Bloater paste sandwich. Ingredients: bloater paste, white bread, butter. Bloater paste. Smoked herring ground with butter and seasoning, spread thick on buttered white bread. That was a Norfolk lunch. Along the Suffolk and Norfolk coasts in the 1970s, where fishing wages were unpredictable and families had to eat from whatever the boats brought in, bloater paste in small glass jars stretched a single fish into a week of sandwiches. A jar cost around 12 pence and sat in corner shops from Yarmouth to Lowestoft. The smell when you opened it was strong, smoke and oil and sea, and the taste was deeper still, a dense smoky savouriness that filled the mouth completely. The butter softened it, the bread carried it, and a single sandwich kept a fisherman going until tea. Generations of coastal families ate this without ever calling it special. It was just what was in the pantry. Now you can barely find a jar in Britain. A taste that fed the East Coast for 100 years, gone in one. Forgotten food was somebody's whole childhood. Lard and sugar sandwich. Ingredients: white bread, lard, white sugar. A thin spread of lard on white bread sprinkled with white sugar. A child's treat, not a meal. A small piece of joy in a household where biscuits were rare and tinned cake was for Christmas. In the back-to-backs of Salford and Hull in the 1970s, when sugar was something you measured and lard sat in every kitchen, this sandwich was what your grandmother handed you on a Saturday afternoon when there was nothing else but you needed something. A bag of sugar cost around 8 pence. Lard, perhaps 12 pence a block, lasted weeks. The whole sandwich came in under a penny. The lard was cool and white, melting slightly against the bread. The sugar was crisp and grainy, dissolving as you bit. Children across northern England ate these without ever knowing they were poor. They thought they were lucky, and in the way that mattered, they were. Your great-grandmother grew up on this. It tasted of a kitchen where someone loved you enough to find the sugar tin. Spam and pickle sandwich. Ingredients: spam, Branston pickle, white bread. Cold spam, sliced thick, on white bread with a spoonful of Branston pickle. The factory-packed lunch. In Birmingham, Belfast and Coventry in the 1970s, when shift workers had 20 minutes to eat and food had to be cheap, filling and need no cooking, spam and pickle was the sandwich that fed Britain's production lines. A tin of spam cost around 18 pence and made 6 rounds. A jar of Branston was 20 pence and lasted weeks. Total cost per sandwich, under 7 pence. The spam was cold, salty, dense, almost meaty enough to be ham, and the pickle hit back with sweetness and crunch and that dark, vinegary tang that woke up the whole sandwich. The white bread softened against the meat. Packed into millions of metal lunch tins by mothers who got up at 5. No frills, no pretension, no waste. They weren't fancy sandwiches, they were the lunch that built half the cars and half the kettles in Britain. Cold sausage sandwich. Ingredients: cold pork sausages, English mustard, white bread. Cold pork sausages, sliced lengthways so they sat flat on white bread with a scrape of yellow English mustard. Monday's lunch from Sunday's tea. In Lancashire households in the 1970s, where every meal had to do double duty and a Sunday roast was supposed to last until Tuesday, mothers cooked extra sausages on purpose so there'd be cold ones in the larder come Monday morning. A pound of sausages cost around 25 pence and made 4 meals if you knew what you were doing. The sausages were cool and firm, the mustard sharp enough to bring tears to your eyes, the bread soft against the meat. The fat had set into the sausage overnight, deepening the flavour, and a single bite carried Sunday's whole kitchen, the roasting tin, the gravy, the smell of the oven on a wet afternoon. Across the north, this was Monday's packed lunch in a million tins. Your grandmother understood the full life cycle of everything she bought, and nothing was thrown away. Banana and sugar sandwich. Ingredients: banana, white sugar, white bread. A sliced banana on white bread dusted with sugar. After-school tea. In working-class households in the early 1970s, when sweet treats were rationed by circumstance and a packet of biscuits was a Saturday luxury, a banana sandwich was what a tired mother handed her child at 4 o'clock so they could go back outside and play until dark. Bananas were around 12 pence a pound by 1973. Sugar, 8 pence a bag. The whole sandwich came in under 3 pence. The banana was soft, going slightly brown at the edges, sweet and creamy against the bread. The sugar gave a tiny crunch that disappeared as you chewed. Children across Britain ate these standing in the back garden, kicking a ball, not knowing or caring that this was the cheapest sweet thing in the cupboard. Simplicity done well isn't failure, it's economy. Your nan didn't need a patisserie, she needed a ripe banana and 10 seconds before you ran back outside. Potted meat sandwich. Ingredients: potted beef, white bread, butter. Potted beef, minced fine, packed tight in a small pot, sealed under a layer of fat, spread thick on buttered white bread. The reliable sandwich. In Yorkshire towns in the 1970s, where butchers each made their own potted beef recipe and every household had a favourite shop, a small pot cost around 15 pence and fed a family for 2 days. Cheaper than fresh meat, denser than paste, deeply savoury in a way that filled the whole mouth. The fat seal kept it good for a week. You scraped through the white cap, dug into the dark beef beneath, spread it on bread that was soft and pale, and the meat held its shape against the butter. Mill workers in Bradford ate these at 11 o'clock. Bus drivers in Leeds packed them for night shifts. Standard weekday tea in tens of thousands of homes. No surprises, no disappointments. It wasn't poor food. It was the sandwich a butcher made because he knew his customers couldn't waste a penny, and they loved him for it. Condensed milk sandwich. Ingredients: white bread, condensed milk, butter. Carnation condensed milk, sweet, thick, almost syrupy, spread on buttered white bread. A pudding sandwich for children. In British households in the 1970s, where money was tight and shop-bought puddings were a Christmas-only thing, condensed milk on bread was what came after the main meal when there was nothing else but the children needed something sweet to remember the day by. A tin cost around 14 pence and lasted weeks because you used so little. The milk was thick as treacle, pale gold, sticky on the spoon. It pooled into the bread and softened it, the butter underneath making everything richer still. The first bite was extraordinary, caramel and cream and pure sweetness, especially if you were 7 and hadn't had a biscuit all week. Children across Liverpool, Glasgow, Cardiff knew this taste. It wasn't a poor pudding. It was a mother saying, "I haven't forgotten you even on a Wednesday." You don't forget a sandwich like that, not in 50 years. Cucumber and vinegar sandwich. Ingredients: cucumber, malt vinegar, white bread. Sliced cucumber on thick white bread splashed with malt vinegar. A summer sandwich. Not the crustless garden party version. This was working class bread, cut doorstep thick, eaten at kitchen tables in terraced houses across the Midlands when a hot Saturday afternoon meant nobody wanted to cook. A whole cucumber cost around 6 pence in 1975 and made sandwiches for 4. The vinegar, 2 pences worth, softened the cucumber slightly, drew out the water, cut through the blandness of the bread, and the whole thing came together cool and sharp and somehow restorative. The cucumber was crisp and watery, the bread soft, the vinegar bright and almost fruity in malt form. Standard weekday tea in summer, in towns from Wolverhampton to Worcester. Your grandmother served these on a plate with a cup of tea and called it lunch. It wasn't a small sandwich, it was the one she made when the heat was rising and she needed her family fed without firing up the stove. Bread and dipping, gravy sandwich. Ingredients: white bread, leftover roasting tin gravy, dripping. A piece of white bread dipped into the cold, jellied gravy in the bottom of the roasting tin, sometimes spread with dripping on the other side, folded over and eaten standing up. Not quite a sandwich, more a ritual. In post-war Sheffield and Salford, in households where a Sunday joint had to last the family until Wednesday and the roasting tin was treated like treasure, this was what children ate before the proper meal was ready, or as a hunger stopper before bed. The tin sat on the side, brown gelatinous gravy at the bottom, white fat on top. Cost nothing. It came free with the joint. The bread soaked up the gravy, going dark and savoury, and the dripping on the other side gave it weight and richness. You ate it over the kitchen sink so you didn't drip on the floor. Children from Manchester to Newcastle knew this taste. Beef and salt and the deep meaty cool of yesterday's roasting tin. Nothing was poured away, ever. Your grandmother knew the worth of every spoonful and she taught you without saying a word. Tin sardine and tomato sandwich. Ingredients: tinned sardines, sliced tomato, white bread. Tinned sardines forked onto white bread, half a sliced tomato laid on top, finished with a pinch of salt. The Friday sandwich. In coastal towns from Whitstable to Whitehaven in the 1970s, where Catholic traditions still shaped what came out of the kitchen on a Friday, and a tin of fish was the cheapest protein going, sardine sandwiches fed working men who needed real food after 8 hours on their feet. A tin cost around 9 pence and made 4 sandwiches. A tomato, perhaps 2 pence. Total cost per round, under 5 pence. The sardines were oily and rich, the tomato cool and acidic, cutting through the fish. The bread soaked up the oil and went golden at the edges. The smell was strong, sea and brine and ripe tomato, and a single sandwich gave you the protein and fat your body actually needed. Practical, nutritious, almost completely forgotten now. It wasn't poor food. It was a sandwich that knew exactly what a working body needed and gave it without asking questions. Cold bacon rind sandwich. Ingredients: cold cooked bacon rinds, white bread, brown sauce. Cold cooked bacon rinds on white bread with a smear of brown sauce. Wealthier households threw the rinds away. In working class kitchens across the north in the 1970s, where every part of every rasher had to earn its keep, bacon rinds were saved from breakfast and put back into a sandwich the next day. A pound of bacon cost around 40 pence and rinds were essentially free, the part nobody else wanted. The rinds were chewy, salty, deeply porky, with a bite that made your jaw work. The brown sauce cut the fat and the bread held everything together. The smell of bacon stayed on your fingers all morning. In mining households from Doncaster to Durham, this was what a man took down the pit when the wage packet hadn't stretched. Not glamorous, nobody pretended otherwise, but it was filling, it was free, and it was the sandwich of people who understood that nothing on a plate is worthless if you know what to do with it. Banana and crisp sandwich. Ingredients: white bread, banana, ready salted crisps. A sliced banana and a layer of ready salted crisps pressed between 2 slices of white bread, the child's invention. In British homes in the 1970s, where children were left to make their own tea on a Saturday and worked with whatever was in the cupboard, banana and crisp sandwiches were discovered independently by thousands of kids across the country. Bristol, Birmingham, Belfast, all hitting on the same magic combination at the same time. A packet of Golden Wonder crisps cost 4 pence, a banana 2. The whole sandwich came in under 7 pence. The crisps crackled against the soft banana, salt against sweet, crunch against cream, the bread holding it all together until the last bite. It tasted strange and brilliant in equal measure. Working mothers laughed when they saw it, then they tried it and stopped laughing. It wasn't a poor sandwich. It was a generation of children proving that the best food in Britain was being made by 7-year-olds with the cupboard door open. Black treacle on bread. Ingredients: black treacle, white bread, butter. Black treacle, spread slowly with the back of a spoon on buttered white bread, the energy sandwich. In Scotland and the north of England in the early 1970s, where mill workers and miners needed something between meals to keep them going through a 10-hour shift, treacle on bread gave you the calories that kept a man on his feet until tea. A tin cost around 12 pence and lasted a month. Bread, 11 pence a loaf. Total cost per sandwich under 3 pence. The treacle was thick and slow, almost black, with a bitter edge under the sweetness. The butter underneath stopped it soaking through, and the white bread compressed against your teeth as you bit down. The flavour was extraordinary. Molasses and burnt sugar and something deep and old and almost smoky. I remember watching my grandfather eat these at his kitchen table in Barnsley, the tin beside the breadboard, saying nothing, just eating slowly. He didn't need conversation. He needed 5 quiet minutes and the sandwich that had kept his father going before him. Chip shop scraps sandwich ingredients: chip shop scraps, white bread, salt and vinegar. Chip shop scraps, the loose pieces of batter that fell off the fish during frying, folded into white bread with salt and vinegar, the free sandwich. In Bradford, Wakefield and Halifax in the 1970s, when every chippy in the north gave scraps away to anyone who asked, families on a tight wage walked the long way home so they could pick up a paper bag of free batter to turn into supper. The bread cost a penny a slice, the scraps cost nothing. Total cost, under 2 pence for a sandwich that tasted like a Friday night. The scraps were crunchy and golden, soaked in oil, salty and sharp from the vinegar. The white bread softened against them and went translucent at the edges, holding the heat. The smell was the smell of every northern street at 6 o'clock, fat and fish and newspaper. Children knew which chippy gave the most generous scoop. That knowledge was passed down from older brother to younger like an inheritance. They weren't poor sandwiches, they were the proof that a northern family could eat like kings on what the rest of the country threw out. Golden syrup sandwich. Ingredients: golden syrup, white bread, butter. Lyle's golden syrup drizzled over buttered white bread, folded fast before it soaked through. A Saturday afternoon. In British kitchens in the 1970s, where the green and gold tin had sat on the same shelf since 1885, and every child knew the lion on the label, golden syrup sandwiches were what your nan made when there was no cake in the tin, but the day still needed sweetening. A tin cost around 14 pence and lasted months. The bread, the butter, came in under 3 pence. Total cost, under 5 pence for something that felt like a proper treat. The syrup was thick and slow, pure honey gold, lighter than treacle and cleaner. It pooled into the bread and made the surface gleam, and the butter underneath kept it from going through. The first bite was sticky and sweet and brilliant. The second bite ran down your fingers. Children from Plymouth to Perth knew this taste. Standard weekend tea in millions of homes. It wasn't a small sandwich. It was the one your grandmother handed you on the back step in summer, and the stickiness on your fingers an hour later was the whole afternoon remembered. Mustard and cress egg sandwich. Ingredients: hard-boiled egg, mustard and cress, salad cream. Mashed hard-boiled egg, mustard and cress, salad cream on white bread, the garden sandwich. In British households in the 1970s, where mustard and cress was grown on the windowsill in a shallow tray of damp newspaper and a punnet from the shop cost 3 pence, this was the first food many children ever grew themselves, and the first taste of how much better something tasted when you'd watched it come up. An egg cost 3 pence, cress 3, salad cream 15 pence a bottle and lasting a month. Total cost per sandwich under 6 pence. The egg was firm and warm yellow, the cress sharp and peppery and faintly green tasting, the salad cream tying it all together with vinegar brightness. The white bread held the mash without falling apart. Standard weekday tea in homes from Cornwall to Caithness. Growing your own food, even in this small windowsill way, wasn't a hobby. It was just what you did because food cost money, and a tray of cress on the kitchen ledge cost almost none. It wasn't poor food, it was a child's first lesson in where supper came from. Bread and Bovril sandwich. Ingredients: white bread, Bovril, butter. Bovril spread sparingly on buttered white bread. The warming sandwich. In British homes in the 1970s, where the heating came on for 2 hours in the evening and not a minute longer, a Bovril sandwich and a cup of strong tea was how a family thawed out before bed. A jar had been on British shelves since 1886, cost around 15 pence in 1973, and lasted months because you used barely a teaspoon at a time. Bread, 11 pence a loaf. Total cost per sandwich, under 3 pence. The Bovril was dark and glossy, almost black against the butter, and the smell when you opened the jar was pure beef stock, savoury, deep, faintly malty. On the bread it gave a meaty richness that warmed you from the first bite, the butter underneath softening the saltiness, the white bread carrying it all. Standard weekday supper in tens of thousands of homes from Aberdeen to Aberystwyth. It didn't cost much, it gave a great deal. It wasn't a poor sandwich, it was the one your grandmother made when the rain was hammering the window and the gas meter was nearly empty, and somehow it was always enough. Peas pudding sandwich. Ingredients: peas pudding, white bread, cold boiled ham. Peas pudding: yellow split peas, boiled down to a thick, smooth, mustard-coloured paste, spread thick on white bread with a slice of cold boiled ham. The North East sandwich. In County Durham and on Tyneside in the 1970s, where peas pudding had been sold from butchers' shops since the 17th century and every household had a regular order, this sandwich fed shipyard workers and miners and their children on a wage that didn't always stretch. A portion cost around 5 pence, a slice of ham, perhaps 8 pence. The whole sandwich came in under 15 pence and filled a working man for the morning. The peas pudding was dense, nutty, mild, almost buttery, and the ham was salty and pink against it. The white bread soaked up the pudding and went rich and yellow at the edges. In Newcastle and Sunderland, this was as ordinary as bread and butter. Outside the North East, almost nobody knows what peas pudding is now. It wasn't poor food, it was a regional birthright, and a generation grew up not knowing they'd inherited something the rest of Britain had already lost. Brawn sandwich. Ingredients: brawn, white bread, English mustard. A thick cold slice of brawn, pig's head meat cooked down with herbs and set in its own jelly, on white bread with a scrape of yellow English mustard. The butcher's sandwich. In British towns in the 1970s, where every high street butcher made his own brawn from heads that wealthier customers wouldn't buy, this was how working families ate meat in the middle of the week without paying meat prices. A slice cost around 8 pence and made one sandwich. A loaf, 11 pence. Mustard, 10 pence a tin and lasting a year. Total cost per sandwich, under 12 pence. The brawn was gelatinous and wobbling, intensely porky, set with fragments of meat through clear jelly that softened against the bread. The mustard was sharp enough to make your eyes water, and the white bread held it all together. Children sometimes refused it. Adults who understood what it was wouldn't have swapped it for steak. In Walsall, Wolverhampton and the Black Country, brawn sandwiches were standard weekday tea. Now you can barely find brawn in Britain. It wasn't poor food, it was a butcher's gift to families who couldn't afford to waste a single pig. Stale bread and beef dripping toast. Ingredients: stale white bread, beef dripping, salt. 2-day-old white bread toasted under the grill until charred at the edges, spread immediately with cold beef dripping so the fat melted into the surface, finished with salt. The end-of-week sandwich. In British households from the 1940s through the late 1970s, where the fresh loaf bought on Monday had to last until Saturday and Friday's bread was hard and grey, you didn't throw it away. You toasted it. The bread, free, already paid for. The dripping, free, saved from Sunday's roasting tin. The salt, pennies. Total cost, nothing you hadn't already paid. Stale bread held the dripping better than fresh. The heat brought the fat alive, the brown jelly going dark and savoury, the white fat melting into the toast and pooling at the corners. The smell of beef filled the kitchen in seconds. Children across the north ate this on a Friday afternoon, watching the grill, knowing this was the meal that meant Saturday's shopping was nearly here. It wasn't hardship, it was making do with skill. Your grandmother knew that stale bread and a clever woman could feed her family one more day, and she took quiet pride in it. Cold faggot sandwich. Ingredients: cold faggot, brown sauce, white bread. A cold faggot, minced pork offal, onion and herbs, baked into a ball the night before, sliced and laid on white bread with brown sauce. The next day sandwich. In the Black Country and the Welsh mining valleys in the 1970s, where Mr. Brain's faggots had appeared in freezer cabinets from 1971 and a pack of 4 cost around 20 pence, families ate them hot with mushy peas one night and cold in a sandwich the next. The faggot was dark and dense, packed with onion and offal flavour that had deepened overnight as the fat set. The brown sauce was sharp and vinegary against it, and the white bread soaked up the meat juices and went rich at the edges. The smell when you opened the lunch tin at the foundry was unmistakable. In Wolverhampton, Walsall, Merthyr Tydfil, cold faggot sandwiches were entirely ordinary, standard packed lunch in thousands of tins. If you know, you know. It wasn't poor food. It was the sandwich a Black Country man unwrapped at his bench at 11 o'clock and ate without speaking, because some things didn't need talking about. Fried bread and dripping sandwich. Ingredients: white bread fried in lard, beef dripping, salt. A slice of white bread fried in lard until golden, cooled slightly, spread with cold beef dripping, folded and eaten. 2 layers of fat in one sandwich. In British working-class households in the 1970s, where the father was on his feet for 10 hours in a foundry or down a pit and the children were walking 2 miles to school in January, this was correct eating for the life being lived. The bread, 3 pence a slice. The lard, 12 pence a block and lasting a month. The dripping, free from Sunday's tin. Total cost, under 5 pence for a sandwich that gave a working man the calories he needed to make it to tea time. The fried bread was crisp on the outside and soft within, golden where the lard had bubbled around it, the cold dripping melted on contact, the brown jelly mixing with the fresh hot fat, the salt waking everything up. The smell filled the kitchen on a January morning in a way central heating never could. It wasn't reckless food. It was the sandwich that kept a foundry worker's children warm at school, and his wife knew exactly what she was doing when she stood at the stove at 7 in the morning. Survival in a frying pan. Bread and condensed milk with cold tea. Ingredients: white bread, condensed milk, strong cold tea. Thick white bread spread with condensed milk, eaten alongside a cup of strong cold tea left over from the morning pot. The last meal of the day. In parts of Liverpool, Manchester and Glasgow in the early 1970s, in households where the wage packet had run out before the week had and there was nothing else in the cupboard, this was a real supper for real children on real evenings. A tin of carnation cost 14 pence and lasted a fortnight. The bread, 11 pence a loaf. The tea, already brewed, already paid for, was free at this point in the day. Total cost, under 5 pence for the meal that closed Thursday and held the family together until Friday's wage. The condensed milk was thick and gold and sweet enough to fill a stomach all by itself. The cold tea was strong and tannic, almost bitter, and the contrast made both better. The white bread soaked up the milk and softened against the tongue. Mothers across the back streets of 3 cities made this without speaking about it, because there was nothing to say. They were not failures. They were doing everything they could with everything they had, and their children went to bed full. That is not a small thing. That is everything. The doorstep dripping sandwich. Ingredients: white bread, beef dripping, coarse salt. A doorstep slice of white bread, thick enough you could barely get your mouth around it. Spread with cold beef dripping straight from the tin. The brown jelly and the white fat together, scattered with coarse salt. That's all. That's number 1. In millions of British homes from the 1940s through to the 1980s, in terrace streets and council houses and pit village cottages from Sheffield to Swansea, this was Sunday night. The bread, 11 pence a loaf. The dripping free, set in the tin from the morning's joint. The salt, a few pence. Total cost, under 4 pence for the sandwich that closed the working week. The dripping was cool and dense, the brown jelly dark and beefy, the white fat creamy on top. You spread both layers, every bite carrying both depth and richness. The salt cracked between your teeth, the bread compressed in your hand. The smell of beef filled a cold kitchen on a winter evening. Your grandfather made it for himself after everyone else had gone to bed, standing at the kitchen counter in his shirt sleeves, the scrape of the knife on the tin, not wanting to wake anyone. Just a man, a piece of bread, and the quiet knowledge that tomorrow there would be more work and today had been enough. I still see him. I still smell it. It wasn't a poor sandwich. It was the sandwich of every honest week that ever ended in a British kitchen, and when it disappeared, something went with it that we have not yet learned how to name. Tell me, which sandwich on this list did your nan make? Or is there one we've forgotten that should have been here? Write it in the comments. This channel exists because someone has to remember. Subscribe if you want to keep that memory alive. We're not finished yet, not by a long way.